What if you could transform self-doubt into self-permission? It's a new year and a great time for reflection. What do you want out of life? And are you willing to do the work to illuminate new perspectives that give you a pathway to your truest power and greatest potential? It may require removing obstacles and sometimes establishing healthy boundaries with those around you. And I would love for all of us to feel empowered to go after that thing that would allow us to live our most authentic life. This interview provided me many aha moments and left me feeling energized and excited about the many possibilities that life holds for the year ahead. And at times it felt like I was getting a little bit of a therapy session. But at the end of the day, I feel like I also made a new great friend. Health, wellness, career, relationships, and everything in between. We're removing the taboo from what really matters in midlife. I'm your host, Michelle Folan, and this is Asking for a Friend. There are many wonderful things about midlife to celebrate, but vaginal dryness is not on that list. Add relief to your routine like I did with Reverie from Bonafide Health. Reverie is naturally powered with hyaluronic acid and scientifically validated to rejuvenate vaginal tissue and replenish moisture. No mess, no stress. Go to hellobonafide.com and use code AFAF25 at checkout to receive 25% off your subscription for any of Bonafide's sexual health and wellness products. You deserve lasting comfort, so check out Reverie at hellobonafide.com. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am very excited about today's interview. Our guest today is known for her infectious energy, and I can vouch for that. Andrea Mein DeWitt is an author, speaker, and life coach who helps others see and step into their power, their potential, and ultimately their truth. Her career path is proof that it's never too late to transition, modify, revise, and rewrite your life story. And we do talk about that on this show all the time. After 30 years as an academic, Andrea bravely shed her cloak of education and took the courageous and transformational leap into the world of coaching. Her book, Name, Claim, and Reframe, The Pathway to a Well-Lived Life, is a culmination of the wisdom that she has collected through living a gloriously imperfect life and the many tools she has developed to help her coaching clients navigate life with a more attuned vision. It takes courage to live your truth, and part of living an authentic life is stepping out of your comfort zone. Her approach is to help her readers gain awareness of what is working and what areas of their life may no longer serve them. Welcome to the show, Andrea DeWitt.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. I always start the show off with our guest telling our listeners a little bit more about you, your background, your family, and where you're from.
Well, I think my bio said it, why I'm an unusual life coach in that I had a 30-year career and jumped ship from academia and really made that career shift in my early 50s. I don't think I would have had the courage to do that if I hadn't had a inciting incident. And I think many of the clients that come to me have had that same thing happen. I'd like to say I'm proof that it's never too late and you're not too old to really live your dream. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have 2 grown children. One lives in San Francisco and one lives in New York. And I live with my husband and our very spoiled, entitled Labrador Retriever, Maggie.
We love our dogs.
We do love our dogs.
That's awesome. I know you had a long career prior. Where did you teach?
I did everything. In the book, I talk about this. I started out fueled by the fact that I, as a child, was a struggling reader. I was a late reader. I was fueled by the fact that I wanted to understand why I couldn't learn to read. And I thought, I know I'm smarter than this. I kept focused on that. And I went all through school and went on to college and was studied to be a teacher and went on to grad school and became a reading specialist. And I taught for 20 years teaching and being a reading specialist and a mentor. And then I spent 13 more teaching at the college level with beginning teachers and graduate students and undergraduates and as a mentor. I tell this story because I think to your audience that everything that you've done before in your life really fuels what you will do and informs what you will do later in life. If you feel called to do something, bring all that wisdom with you. I was very insecure about leaping into coaching. I thought people are going to laugh at me. People are going to think that I'm too old, or I thought, oh, maybe I'm not smart enough. Will I be able to have a new career? I walked into that room the first day of the number of classes I had to take. I mean, it was a whole year. It was pretty rigorous. And I thought, oh my goodness, these are my people. Everything I've done has led me here.
Yeah.
I think if we're really in touch with our truth, opportunities come our way. And for me, I wouldn't be here talking to you if I hadn't listened to my intuition.
You're in your 50s at this point. You're starting this new career, which I think is amazing. At what point did you say, I feel a book inside of me?
Well, when you read my book, I am brutally honest, but I think my goal for the book was not to make it about me, but was to write narrative that would help you see yourself in my story. Because I think we all have things, little secrets that we keep from ourselves. It was during COVID. My coaching was a big goose egg. I had no coaching clients. Everyone was afraid. I thought, what am I going to do? I was meditating, and that wise woman that lives just under my skin spoke to me, and she said, this is it, Andrea. You've always wanted to write a book. It's time. I told a group of women that I was in a community, a coaching community, and sure enough, one of them said, hey, I know a book coach, which is someone that is a developmental editor. And I met with her and I said, you know what? I want to do this. And I did during COVID. Talk about divine timing. I mean,
Well, isn't it amazing how many people started projects?
Oh, yes.
Or started reassessing things during COVID? I did. I mean, I've had a lot of guests on the show that have done the same thing. And I have to tell you something. I read the book. I didn't get all the way through it yet, but I'm going to do that. I'm more than halfway through. This is way more than a self-help book. I like what you said. Hopefully people can identify with me because I said it's really an expression of your own journey. It's so relatable.
Thank you for saying that, Michelle. It's my truth. Because I'm a teacher, I always want to make sure that I make content accessible to everyone. I tried in the book to bring different examples, either from a story of mine or a story of a client's or a situation that we've all had, so that it circled the concept. I hoped that I would pick up any stragglers that weren't understanding, and I hopefully have achieved that.
Tell us a little bit more about the process behind name, claim, and reframe.
Well, name, claim, and reframe, each one of those terms, name, claim, reframe, are coaching terms. Because I like structures and I'm looking to make content accessible, realized that that was really the structure I was using with my clients. It was also the structure I had used for myself to navigate challenges. What it is naming your triggers and your limiting beliefs. It's about catching yourself. Why am I reacting instead of responding? That's the name step. And the claim step is claiming actions that match up with your core beliefs. Most people think they know what their core beliefs are. Until we really dive into that and really examine it, we don't really know what they are. And when we know what our core beliefs are, it's much easier to have clarity about what we want, what we don't want, and how to keep sacred that which is most important. Finally, the reframe. I mean, you cannot reframe until you've named and claimed. I really do go through naming, claiming, and then the reframe is really what changes your life. The reframe is when you shift your mindset to separate your ego. You can think about it, okay, I'm going to look at this perspective, a different angle. what would serve me best in this situation, my long-term goals. We all have to do things we don't want to do.
Yeah.
If we can reframe it and say, well, I'm going to be doing this, I'm shifting my perspective, I'm going to separate my ego, and I'm doing this because this is going to serve my goals for this goal in the future, the kind of person I want to be going forward.
Got it.
That's how it works. Simple, not easy.
No, I was going to say, I mean, you make it sound simple, but I know it takes a lot of work.
It does.
On the part of your client to come to terms with that. Let's talk a little bit about discovering core values, because I'm curious of the process of how you get someone to really hone in on what their core values are.
That's a really great question, Michelle. And I thought before I became a coach, I really knew what my core values are. I mean, we all pick those things like respect and bravery and all that stuff. But what I realized when I became a coach is that there's a lot more to core values than meets the eye. Believe it or not, I find that we learn more about core values from dissonant experiences than resonant experiences. For instance, when a client comes to me and they're upset about something that has happened, my first prompt to them is, okay, what core value was trumped? What is it that is bothering you about this situation? Right there, we can hone in on the why behind why we can't be with something, and then maybe what we need to do to feel better about it. It's counterintuitive that you go into the negative first, which we're all afraid to go into the negative. But this book, I really think that I give you permission to look at the darkness, because in the darkness of dissonant experiences and the things about ourselves we don't like, we find the genius of ourselves.
You don't want to be in that negative place, but if you go there, then you think, okay, how can I get out of that? What is it going to take to pull me out?
It's true, but before even that, Michelle, I think it gives us permission to be, you know what, I'm really angry.
Yeah.
To actually feel the anger. That really irked me. To actually allow ourselves to be angry. And why am I angry? I'm angry because this, and this. I'm allowing myself to feel that anger or that irritation or that hurt. Right there, you're receiving yourself. That's what naming is about, receiving ourselves. And then once you've received yourself in a soft place, then we can think, okay, how do I want to respond? And that's the claim.
Got it. I love it. You talk a little bit about your own childhood in the book, about your parents. And out of that came this differentiation between the masculine and feminine energy. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I would love to talk about it because it's really the cornerstone of my book. Before I go into that, Michelle, I want to say that when I talk about masculine and feminine energy, they are non-binary. Both men and women, or anyone that identifies as non-binary, we all have masculine and feminine traits. It was right there where I want to start. So everyone sees that both men and women and people that identify, however people identify, we have them. I grew up in a very masculine household. My father, and he's still alive, he's 93, valued, and I say in the book, courage, athleticism, and steel equipment. Emotions were not tolerated. I'm the oldest, but I have two younger brothers. It was very masculine. My mother also was not in her feminine very much. She was a tomboy. We soldiered up and we dealt with things. I showed up very courageous and independent and stoic.
Competitive?
And very competitive.
Yeah, I bet.
I say that I'm a recovering warrior because I still have that. But it wasn't until I started really investigating, really wanting to strengthen my own leadership, where I met these incredible women who introduced me to the idea that we could be both masculine and feminine, and how powerful feminine leadership is, that I started thinking, oh my goodness, there's something underneath here. I started exploring the magic of feminine leadership. Underneath my warrior, I found a woman that was compassionate, and she was receptive, and she was a good listener, and she was ingenious and resourceful. When you take someone that's visionary and assertive and courageous, and you combine that with someone that's a good listener and resourceful and someone that likes to bring things together and build communities. You put that into a leader, oh my goodness, potent power.
Oh, yeah.
I realized that my leadership could only get stronger. I thought that feminine energy wasn't powerful, but actually it's really a lot smarter and a lot more intelligent and resourceful. I will say this too, I think this helps, and people are going to have to look at the book to see what I'm talking about, but masculine energy is more about doing. You're rallying the troops, you're keeping people focused and in order. And feminine energy is more about being. So you're actually taking a beat to receive, take stock of what's going on at the boardroom table. You have emotional intelligence. I notice so-and-so seems like they're not receptive to that, and I need to check that out. Oh, this is going on. Or maybe I can see that this person might need more of this, and maybe I might need to talk to them. There's just receptiveness and wisdom.
Yeah.
And kindness. And
less directive.
Altruism, which I love that idea.
Yes, absolutely. How do you create a healthy balance then between masculine and feminine?
Well, I'm going to start by saying it's a practice, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's a practice that we do every single day. It's a practice. I'm the first to tell your audience, I practice just like they, I hope, will practice when they read my book. It's about the choice to respond to adversity versus reacting to it. And I talk about being above the line, which is a natural response, either masculine or feminine, or being below the line. When we react, we are below the line. If you're below the line masculine, you might be confrontational or territorial or stubborn or verbally abusive. If you're below the line feminine, you might be gossipy or have victimhood or vindictive or vague. It's catching yourself thinking, oh goodness, I'm reacting. Why am I reacting? That's the name. What's causing me to go below the line? And then the choice to, I don't want to react. I'm going to choose to take a beat, a breath, to think about how I really want to be so I can respond with an above the line action, which would be, do I want to take ownership of what I've done? Do I want to be visionary? Do I want to be supportive? Do I want to be empathetic, sensitive?
Solutions oriented? Yeah.
It's that difference, and it's really giving ourselves the opportunity. I mean, my natural tendency, especially when I feel threatened, is to pick up the sword. And that's just not the best way to lead.
No.
I talk about this in the book in that till I was in my early 50s, I was a warrior. I did really well, but it's not like I made a lot of friends. Everyone's thinking, this woman. I think a lot of women, we armor up to compete. What I found is when we combine both above the line masculine gifts with above the line feminine, you have this incredible versatile leader. I use this example a lot. I think the best negotiators are people that balance that masculine and that feminine, because they actually come into the negotiation. They know what they want, but they say, oh, well, what are you interested in? They received the other person. So the other person feels seen. You're going to get more bees with honey than vinegar.
I know.
Isn't it true?
It's so true. And for the people listening today, if you get Andrea's book, and I highly recommend you do, there is a whole page of what she's referring to in terms of being above the line, below the line, masculine and feminine traits. Do you put your clients through a practice of reading through that and circling how they feel?
When I work with clients on one-on-one, Michelle, I mean, I'll say that one-on-one coaching is individual and it's what they need, and we certainly talk about it absolutely in depth. I have used this chart. It's a combination of Conscious Leadership, which is an incredible organization that talks about conscious leaders know where they are at any given moment. Even if you are triggered to go below the line, you can make the choice to come back above the line. And then a group of mentor coach that I work with who ran a program called Spiral Leadership. This is where it was introduced to me. It's not that I came up with this, but I just took it and thought, oh my goodness, I think we can dig deeper into this. What's interesting about this work, and I'm excited for people to see it, is that I've had friends who have looked at this and they said, oh my gosh, Andrea, I'm thinking about things. I'm noticing when I'm triggered. Like, oh, I know it's alarming. I mean, it just gives you awareness to think about things in a different way. And then you give yourself the opportunity to choose again.
We all know you should count to 10 before you respond.
Oh, yes.
This made me more aware of thinking about the situation and how I'm feeling before I respond. Not just that chill time and not responding, giving myself 10 seconds, but this really does make you think about how I'm feeling, how I'm going to respond, how will this person respond to me if I respond this way. It's a great practice. I do want to say this. The other thing I picked up when I was reading the book was for people like me who have worked in very male-dominant industries, my current position and my position I had prior, all very male-dominated. There were times in my previous position, I was the only female in the room. Many times. I would always tell myself, remember, you are female. You bring gifts to the table that are unique, but we tend to revert back to those masculine traits when we're in a group like that because we think that's going to be more effective.
We think that's going to be more effective. That's the thing. What I have found, and I stand right with you, Michelle, we all armor up because we thought that was how we needed to be, but we were missing so much. I talk about being unbalanced, and maybe this will help. When I'm in a situation, the warrior one, she wants to step forward because she's like, this really works. I know how to do this. The wise woman that lives underneath my armor says, oh, sweetheart, there is just a much smarter, more strategic way to do this. Let's take a minute to think about who you really want to be right now. And when you think about that, it makes it a lot easier because that is giving yourself a beat to take a breath and think about it. When you react, which is a below the line, that's a wounded response, you are back on your heels. You're reacting. You're not in your power. When you respond, you have taken your power back in a strategic, intelligent, and resourceful way. It's the difference between reacting or taking your power back resourcefully.
This is such good stuff. I love it. Can we discuss the inner critic?
Oh, I know. We all have one. Some of us have several. We do.
Do we name them?
It's actually really a fun exercise, Michelle. I do this with my clients where we actually create a character for their inner critic. I talk in the book about Sister Mary Frances. I was raised Catholic.
Same here.
You understand. Sister Mary Frances, who is the pleaser. And she is just this sweet little nun. And she sits on my shoulder and does not guard my energetic boundaries. She thinks I'm not nice enough. She thinks I should say yes. I should please everyone except for myself. Now I hear her coming and I say, oh, sister, I know you think I should do that. But let me just tell you, I'm exhausted today. And I think just saying a kind but clear no would be a really better choice. When we start noticing their voice and we separate ourselves from the voice, it makes it a lot easier. The sister is an easy one. I think the harder one is the sinister, doubting, mean voice. And let me ask you, Michelle.
Yeah.
What does your mean, doubting, limiting thinking voice say to you? What does it say?
What's your end game with this podcast?
So it's doubting you. Why are you wasting your time doing this? Okay, what else?
When are you going to make some money doing your podcast?
It's diminishing your power, diminishing your light. What else?
It does. It does. How are you going to continue to create balance between your career, day job, and all the other things that you want to accomplish in your life?
Oh my goodness. Its thinking is so restrictive.
It is.
And inner critics, really, and I say this with love, They are really developed to keep us safe from rejection, hurt, embarrassment. They're like an overprotective parent. The inner critic is like an overprotective parent.
Now I feel depressed. Just because I stated all that stuff.
No, but let's call it out.
Yeah.
Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts. What do you know about the impact of your podcast that your inner critic doesn't know? Because it's got limiting thinking.
Oh, I do get really positive feedback from people. I've learned so much. These are things that I've always wondered about, but I never really wanted to ask. I'm taking better care of myself now. I mean, I've heard some really wonderful things from people. That's what my encouragement is.
Can I add one more?
Yes.
You're lifting other voices.
Oh, thank you.
You're elevating content and you're lifting other voices. Right there, there's a lot. If you think about values, there's a lot there. There's altruism.
That's part of it too. I mean, I really want people like you, whether you're an author, you have a coaching business like you do. I want women to have a place to talk about that. I want to be supportive of other women because women are doing some really great things in midlife. It doesn't stop once you hit midlife.
No, it doesn't.
Sometimes this is when it just gets going.
Can I add another one? Do you mind?
Sure.
Can we co-create?
Yeah, sure.
But I'm also thinking about, maybe your inner critic doesn't know this, how courageous it is to start a podcast and invite people to be on it and then ask questions and meet people and then figure out how to engineer all of it and fit it into your day. I mean, could we just go on and list all the things that your inner critic doesn't know that you're doing? Wow.
I know, and I have to remind myself of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to stop. If we're thinking about if you're going to make a character for your inner critic, like a cartoon character or a silly energy, what would it be? What would it look like?
She'd look really haggard. She'd look awful and
Poor dear.
needs to go to the spa.
She needs to just lighten up. Does she have a name?
Negative Nancy.
Poor dear. I mean, poor negative Nancy. I mean, what is she trying to keep you safe from, Michelle, when you think about is negative Nancy trying to keep you safe from?
I think she's just trying to keep me safe from failure.
And maybe embarrassment too. Poor dear.
Yeah, I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. I am the achiever. My inner critic is probably trying to keep me from failing because that is part of my personality.
Yeah. When you look at it that way, you think, okay, she really does have good intentions, but she doesn't have all the facts. So negative Nancy, if you could just say to negative Nancy, right now, we could even ask her to leave this conversation because I think she's sitting on your shoulder. We could just say, negative Nancy, thanks so much for showing up, but Michelle's got this and you can leave because we've got it. You're keeping us from soaring with our podcast interview here. Please leave.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so funny.
I mean, I actually asked my clients, I said, oh, is your inner critic here? Could you open the door? I'm going to open my door. Could they leave? Because I cannot coach someone if their inner critic is sitting on their shoulder.
No, I can see where that would be very difficult.
Oh, yeah. The more aware you are of your inner critic, the smarter they get. I think coaches that teach this stuff like me, my inner critics have advanced degrees in in sabotage. I think, ooh, I'm always tweaking it and looking at it. And it's just a fun tool.
I love it.
And when we add the silliness of making a character out of it, it helps you separate the voice from you.
We have to be able to laugh.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because if we can't giggle and laugh, I take things very seriously, but sometimes I can't take myself that seriously. I am who I am, and I like to enjoy life, and I like to laugh.
Well, humor also gives us room, gives us wiggle room. There's no way to be perfect.
No.
So imperfection is actually way more spacious. And my goodness, I think the happiest people are the ones that can actually laugh with themselves. I mean, really.
Absolutely. You talk quite a bit about boundaries in the book. I'm hearing a lot about boundaries. I do believe that women in midlife probably have a difficult time setting boundaries because they have worn so many hats. they still feel called to duty to continue to wear all those hats. How do you help people define their boundaries?
That's such a great question, Michelle. And I think that the older we get, the more responsibility we get. It's like the middle spot. You've got your children, and you might even have your aging parents. You've been the caregiver for both, and suddenly everything's encroaching on you. And that's where it's even more important to notice. The word that I use, the buzzword, and anybody that knows me or works with me knows the word I use, and my kids now throw it at me. I use the word self-sovereignty. When you are not resourced, or when you are depleted of all of your resources, you are not showing up as your best self. It's really about noticing what's going on. That's the name step. And where am I? I'm exhausted. I'm probably going to react instead of respond to this. When you get those emails that you just want to go, oh, you feel it almost in your stomach and you think, yeah. I think, okay, you know what? There's no reason why I need to respond to this email this evening. I'm going to sleep on it because I need sleep. I mean, that's noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Energetic boundaries are about, also, we talk about those dissonant experiences we talked about at the beginning of our conversation, about noticing what is bothering me. Somebody really stepped on a core value, and that's not going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about making what's most important sacred. When you're really clear on what your core values are, it's easier to keep them sacred. I have a little chart in the book. I made it on my Canva. Canva's a graphic design for beginners. I love it.
Oh, I use it.
My publisher is like, Andrea, all these charts. I go, well, I'm a teacher. I'm sorry. I make little charts, but it has this little person in the middle. The first bubble is really their reserves. And then they have their energetic boundaries. And then around there is their core values. If your core values get trumped, you get into your energetic boundaries, and then you get into your reserves. And if you have no reserves, you can't show up as your best self for anyone yet you love, especially yourself.
It's really about mental and physical self-care.
It is. I think that we have told ourselves, based on our great-grandmothers and our grandmothers and our mothers, that you just need to serve everyone. Just because you are taking care of yourself, self-care is not selfish. It's actually the most incredible gift you can give to anyone that is in your orbit. I mean, my husband now says to me, do you need to have some quiet time? You can tell.
That's a good man.
When I get a little edgy, you know when you're like, when you've had enough, when you're depleted.
Oh, yeah.
What's really exciting, Michelle, is that I work with a lot of young women that are in their mid-20s to mid-30s, and they are learning this stuff. And I wish that I had known this stuff.
Oh.
They know. They know when they get to 10% on their battery and they go, oh, I need to go resource myself. I need to have some self-sovereignty. They're learning how to do it. Especially, I have other clients that are in their mid-40s and they have little kids. If you're a single parent, then you've got to figure out how you're going to do that. Maybe you, before you go pick up your kids, you go and you have that cup of tea, or you go into a bookstore, or you just go home and settle in before you pick up your children. Or maybe you ask your partner, goodness, could you pick up the kids today? Because I'm tired.
Yeah.
Brene Brown talks about, I'm going to not quote her correctly, but she talked about how she and her husband Steve would say, okay, what's your percentage right now? Are you 20% full? Or are you 80% full? Let's talk about this and who needs to do what based on where their resources are. I think it's just an important thing to do.
I think that's a great conversation to have with your significant other.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And not when you're depleted.
Yeah, don't wait. It's like, don't wait to get good gas in the car when you're on fumes.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm going to admit to you and your audience that my husband and I, my partner of almost 34 years.
Congratulations.
And I still talk about this. We still say, okay, what do you need? If I notice that I think he's got less than I do, I think, okay, I want to help him. He'll notice that I have less. It's this yin and this yang. It's not perfect, but I remember my publisher was going, what is this, your pathway to a well-lived life? That's just really ambiguous. And I said, well, a well-lived life is not perfect, But a well-lived life means that you know exactly where you are, that you know exactly what you're feeling it, you're loving it, you're knowing it, and sometimes it's hard, but you're in your sovereignty and you have chosen how you're living your life. And that's a well-lived life. That's a life in your power.
Very well said. You talk about the self-care piece. I think getting coaching, getting therapy, buying a really great book is really about self-care.
It is.
It goes way beyond getting your toenails done. I'm one of those people that probably have always been stoic and just like suck it up and that sort of thing. This process of doing this podcast has really opened my eyes, Andrea, to the options out there. And I think you're presenting something so well and it's so relatable that we can all do this. But you got to practice.
We can, Michelle. I say that I'm the leader of this movement. I mean, I created the structure, but everybody has the opportunity to name, claim, and reframe their life. And it's a practice and it's an opportunity. I think underneath, I see that you are a warrior. I mean, you and I'm a 3 as well. So,
oh, really? That's so great.
You and I are cut out of that same, I got to armor up thing. But underneath is that incredible gentle warrior. What I hope is that both men and women will discover the elegant, wise, resourceful leader that lives under their armor. Because with that, you are going to be way more balanced, way more in your power, and happier.
Yeah.
I think in the end, and you'll be living the life that you choose to live, that you curate for yourself.
On that note, I would love for you to tell people where they can find your book and where they can find you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. My book is sold wherever books are sold. I am at AndreaDeWittAdvisors.com. I'm excited. Can I talk about my program?
Yeah, please.
I'm going to dive into this. I decided to do a name, claim, and reframe program, which is a 9-week program. It's a beta. I've only got 6 seats. I'm advertising it on my website under workshops. I want to collect an incredible assortment of gentle warriors to journey with me, to help me with where we're going to go with this movement. I'm starting it in February, so check it out. And they can follow me on Instagram as well, Andrea DeWitt Coaching.
I'm going to go ahead and put all this in the show notes, as I always do, so people will have a reference so that they can find you easily. Andrea DeWitt, this was so much fun. I am going to get through this last quarter of the book. I love it, highly recommend it, and Happy New Year.
Well, Michelle, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's been so much fun. My heart is full.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Follow Asking for a Friend on social media outlets and provide a review and share this show wherever you get your podcasts. Reviews and sharing help us grow.